Welcome to the 2026 Grand Lodge of Texas podcast presented to you by the Committee on Communication. We're glad you joined us as we hear from our Vice Chairman on his committee project known as the Grand Lodge Gazette. Thank you for tuning in, and we hope you enjoy the commentary and variety of topics discussed.
Hello, brother. Welcome to another episode of the Grand Lodge of Texas podcast from the Communications Committee. Our special guest this episode is our Vice Chairman, Brother Mike Mistry. Another initiative of the Communications Committee is to publish the Grand Lodge Gazette, which is published on Mondays. Brother Vice Chairman, please elaborate your vision for the Grand Lodge Gazette.
Brother James, how are you, sir? Good seeing you as always.
Always a pleasure, sir.
I appreciate the intro and talking about the Grand Lodge Gazette. So this sort of came out from things that I have already done in the past, like I had mentioned in our, I believe, the premiere episode where I know about your communications committee. I come from a distribution background, so to speak, in masonry. Did a lot of that for my local lodge in League City, then took it to the district level. One of the things I was seeing was, even though a lot of times you send out a communication letting brothers know a month in advance that there's an event happening, and a lot of the brothers express interest in coming to that or attending that particular event, but your numbers go drastically up when you touch base on a weekly basis. At least that's my assessment of that. And that's what I started doing on the district level trestle board. Instead of a once a month newsletter, I send out once a week newsletter. So it's right there. If you see something happening this week in your district that you would like to attend, there are more chances that you're just going to add that event to your calendar and make sure you're there. So the Grand Lodge Gazette comes from the same inspiration on the Grand Lodge level. Now, things that we would like to cover in this is going to be, or we are covering in this, is just the main Grand Lodge highlighted events. So Grandmaster's official visits, Grandmaster's conferences, if there are any cornerstones happening in the Grand Lodge, etc. So things like that. Every Monday, this Gazette would go out to our social media platforms. We haven't decided if we're going to start doing it over Grandview as well, but definitely on the social media platforms. So I'll give you a week of synopsis, just letting you know what's happening Grand Lodge related for that upcoming week.
That is exciting. I remember through Grandview and through other communications of seeing some of the events. For example, Tarrant County, we get a weekly list of events, of local lodge meetings, degrees, etc. And this is more focused on the Grand Lodge level, as I understand, and not on the local level. In seeing the images and samples of this, it reminds me of old school type of newsletter information on a single page, easy to read, a synopsis. I love the layout. Tell me something more about what your vision of that layout is. What was your motivation for laying it out in this format? What you see, the emphasis will be on the readers, what you are targeting for the readers, some of those type of things in creating this Grand Lodge Gazette.
Absolutely. Excellent question. So quite honestly, the inspiration comes from our Grandmaster. Seems like he's a very traditional man. He likes to go back to the roots. So that was the top inspiration there. Secondly, there in the world we currently live in, there's a lot of AI generated stuff. There's a lot of modern stuff. This is something that's a little bit dated, with the hopes that it kind of sticks out, it catches attention. And at the same time, the main emphasis is to keep it simple. So that way we can get the word out in a very decisive way and a very easily consumable way. That's the point at the end of the day, that we need to let everybody know this is what's happening. How can we do it in a very smooth, simple, digestible manner?
That is what my thought was on what you were trying to accomplish. I've seen some of these newsletters that have come out, which are fantastic, that are 8, 9, 10 pages, and I can focus on the details of specific events in there. But I look at those when I have opportunity and when I have time, and I have a whole month to look at some of these beautiful newsletters. I really like your idea and the committee's idea on having a snapshot or a summary of events and weekly reminders. You alluded to earlier in some of our previous conversations that the more often you communicate the highlights, the better response or the better attendance is at some of these Grand Lodge events. Can you elaborate a little bit more on that philosophy?
Yes. So every time you'll see something being posted on the Grand Lodge Gazette, as you have seen, as many of the brothers have seen, we are kind of limited on the real estate. We don't have too much on that piece, on that one-page flyer. So the point is to get the information out there, and then if you are interested in one of the events that might be happening that caught your attention, there's always going to be a link either in the post or in the article itself that will tell you for further instructions or for further information, go to the Grand Lodge website under the Grand Masters page, or go to Grand View and under the events page, this is where you'll find extra information on it. To answer your question, I think it's and I hate to say it, it's a numbers game, but the more frequently we put stuff out there, the more fresh you are in someone's memory. So it eventually translates into more attendance for everything that's being pushed.
Excellent. On that note, with it being focused on Grand Lodge events, tell me your thoughts on other appendant bodies and why or why not we would add those type of information on there with the limited real estate and focusing on the Grand Lodge level type events.
So one-liner answer, Brother Kirkpatrick, is we are the Grand Lodge Communications Committee. And at the very beginning of this, the first ever newsletter or gazette that went out, I remember distinctly we had this question come up. That particular week that we were working with, there was a Masonic week happening in DC. And I got with the chairman, Brother Coty, and I was like, okay, is this something that should be in the Gazette or not? And we kind of debated over it for a few minutes, and then we sort of came up to a combined decision that no, because of the limited availability of real estate on this one-page flyer, we are gonna hyper focus on only Grand Lodge activities that are happening within the jurisdiction. The point is not to get all the information out there, but the point is to get the limited amount of information out there as quickly and as easily accessible way as possible.
And I knew the answer to that question, but I wanted to have you elaborate on that clearly, which you have done. And thank you. That is exactly what I was expecting. Brother Mike, I'm going to ask you to close this discussion on additional thoughts that you might have on the newsletter, which I did not ask about or did not remember to ask about. Basically, a catch-all to close on anything that you want to say. I turn the floor back over to you, my friend.
So my main message at closing would be there's a lot of avenues that Grand Lodge pushes out different activities through. Think of the Gazette as one place where you can find everything related to Grand Lodge. So your cornerstone activities and everything that we went over, it's a synopsis, like you said. It's a quick one view attempt. And then if you're interested in an event, at least we lodged it in your head. And now you can go further research it and find where it's happening, how close is it from where you are, and then there's on the Grandmaster's calendar online, all the information is listed on there. So that's I would say I would close with that.
Excellent. Brother Vice Chairman, thank you for being our special guest on this podcast. And as we depart, I usually like to remind brethren to lift up in silent prayer our Grand Master, our Grand Lodge officers, our Grand Lodge committees, the brethren of the state of Texas, and be reminded that we strive to do those things which are acceptable to the grand architect of the universe, that he may find all our works proper and with his will and pleasure. Thank you so much for joining us. And until the next podcast, I bid you adieu, goodbye, and good night.